So we're just notifying our followers now, and once we get a few viewers on, then we'll start. Hello everyone, this is the interview with Kanwal Toor Gill, who is the Conservative candidate for Slough. So we're just going to be getting to know her a little bit more, and we're going to be posing some of your questions that you've sent in to us. Hi Kanwal, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you very much.
So Kanwal, you were a largely unheard of candidate before this election. We don't know much about you, so could you just introduce yourself to us a little bit? Tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, this is what I've been telling everyone I've been speaking on the doors as well, that I'm just a normal mother, just like everybody here or around in Slough. I'm not a big-time career politician. I run a small business. I have 2 young children. I have a master's in psychology. I've worked in investment banks for a small while as well, and done charity work actually all my life. I'm the trustee in Mind presently, which is one of the largest mental health charities. And in fact, in one of these charity meetings is where I met one of the representatives from the Conservative Party, and they said, you know, you're doing a lot of charity work, you seem to be engaging with people very well. Is politics of any interest to you? Just going back quickly, my aunt in India, in Punjab in India in fact, was a very senior politician. So politics always sort of was...
So it runs in your family?
It does in a way, it does. And I just thought that it's an extension of charitable work. I mean, the only difference is you can now influence policies as well.
Yeah.
And if the policies are effective, you bring about big, large changes in society, and that's a very big motivating factor to me, and that is the reason I joined politics. Relatively new, but good at engaging with people, it seems.
But what are your main standing points? What mainly interests you? If you were to be successful, what are you campaigning for?
Yes, so if you were to talk of the key pledges of what I promise for the constituents if I were to become the Member of Parliament in Slough, first of all is of course crime. I mean, I have a lot of relatives who live in Slough, in Langley, etc. And I know a whole lot of them have either had issues with crime in terms of burglaries or children in the hands of unscrupulous sort of elements, knife crimes, etc., etc. And things are getting bad to us.
See, one of the things is though, what we've been sent in by a lot of followers and what we've been told is they are worried about knife crime, but they also blame the Conservatives for that, for cutting police numbers.
Well, that's not exactly true. There are 2 points to this. First of all, when the Labour government left us, roughly about 15 years ago, they left us in a very huge debt, and we've still been consolidating and balancing those sheets. So the funding has been a big issue, and because of that, of course, public services have had a strain. Now, secondly, also we've got to remember, immigration is a huge issue that again really puts a lot of strain on our NHS, on our policing, public health services, schools, etc., etc. So
but is that helped though with the number of cuts in policing, in nursing? I know recently Boris Johnson has come out and he said that he will increase police numbers by 20,000.
Yes, that's true.
But is he not just replacing those 20,000?
Not really. I mean, within the you know, like I said, we've had to consolidate a lot of balance sheets for that matter. 20,000 police officers is a number that he has pledged to begin with. 650 of those police officers will be coming to the Thames Valley Police. I have been in touch with Boris and our Deputy Crime Commissioner, Matthew Barber as well, and I've asked him categorically that out of those 650, how many of those would be coming to Slough, because Slough, after all, in Berkshire is one of the highest in terms of crime. So these are the kind of answers that we want. And apart from that, apart from policing, we need a public health approach, which is we need to educate our families. We need to educate our schools. We need to also help our children in terms of mental health, depression, anxiety. And again, remember, the Conservative government is putting millions of pounds into mental health. That is a key issue. Like I said, I've got a master's in psychology, and I know the importance of children growing up in an atmosphere which is extremely tense. So it's very important for us that we educate our families, our schools, and make this by and large a system that everyone sort of puts in their effort.
So, yeah.
And in addition with the police, I'm sure we'd be able to solve this. But this is not going to be a magic all of a sudden. This will have to be a sustainable model, which I'm willing to work on quite seriously.
So yeah, just going back to you mentioned that you met Boris, you've spoken to him recently.
Yes.
Is your opinion of him that he's a trustworthy guy?
He is.
There's a lot of accusations that he's a liar, he can't be trusted.
No. Listen, again, I mean, we can obviously throw accusations, and unfortunately, all of us politicians have to bear the brunt of accusations being thrown at each other, and it happens very often, as we know, in politics. He has tried his best to deliver whatever he has promised. Obviously, people come back to me about the Brexit promise as well, but we know Jeremy Corbyn didn't help matters at all. Labour Party.
Just touching on Brexit now,
Yes.
you've brought it up
Yes.
and you said Jeremy Corbyn didn't help matters, but Boris Johnson, he himself was one of the main saboteurs of Theresa May's deal.
That is because I think he was looking for a better deal, which he has got now. We will be out of the customs union with Boris's deal. We will have full control over the justice system and law, and these are the kind of things that were very, very important to us. And I am glad he's been able to achieve it. It's not been easy, but he has finally done that. And what is important is that we have a deal now, and we've got to leave the EU. Millions of pounds have been spent, lots of time has been spent. All this could have been used on, policing, NHS, and other things which we've been spending for the last 3 years. I think majority of, as we all know, about 55% of the population in Slough voted to leave the EU. We must respect that.
Have you always been a Leave voter?
No, I haven't been. That's the interesting factor again. I had voted to remain in the EU. Having said that, in 2016, when the referendum happened, I'm a true conservative and I believe in getting on with things. And when a democratic decision is made, and especially when a percentage of the population has said that they have the will and the desire to leave the EU, you must follow that. And as a politician, I have to, and I will. And I will commit to that I follow what was given to me as a task in 2016, especially by the residents of Slough.
If it came down to it, would you vote for no deal then? Just as Slough residents did vote for Brexit by 56%, I believe.
Well,
if on the table it was remain and no deal, and you was in Parliament, would you have voted for no deal?
I would vote for a deal, and if that was not the case, yes, I would then vote for a no deal. A remain will not be an option anymore, simply because a chunk of the population decided we leave the EU. And remember, the most important thing is we are now looking to break from the shackles of the 28 countries. We have been the net givers to those 28 countries, whether it is the economy of Spain, Italy, Greece. And I think we've had enough of giving that out to people, This time we've said enough is enough. We have confidence in our economy. The world is our oyster. India, countries like India, Pakistan, Australia, Canada, America, they're waiting to do trade deals with us. Why should we be in the shackles of the 28 countries?
Slough has quite a large Polish, Romanian community as well. If we were to leave, what is your view on them? Will they still be able to move freely? Will they become permanent residents, or do you want to... Will you kick them out?
Good question. No, you cannot do that. You absolutely cannot do that. I think that even human rights would not allow us to do that. But Boris is very clear about that, and so am I, and so is the Conservative Party. The residents who are living here will have all the security that they need. No one's being asked to leave, but we're just going to control immigration now, because as I've just mentioned, even in Slough, our public services are crumbling. We've got to control immigration in every shape and form. Anybody who's got the skills, just like I did when I came here 10 years ago, if you have the skills to contribute to our NHS, to our policing, to our schools, you're more than welcome. But if you don't, unfortunately, we've got to start having some controls now. I do not believe with this free immigration policy which Labour has, and I think I will stand by Boris on this.
All right, okay, just getting back to Boris again.
Yes.
So recently, I'm sure you're aware, he's come in for a lot of criticism about Islamophobia, referring to women who decide to wear the hijab or the niqab as letterboxes. Slough has quite a strong religious community, whether that be Muslim, Sikh, Hindu.
Yeah.
Was he wrong in saying that?
Okay, so now again, Boris is not a racist, and I know him personally. I'm not going to say that lightly. He's not a racist. I'm not saying that because he's our leader, but he is not a racist.
But was he right to make that comment?
I think that was taken out of context. I totally believe in respecting women. I'm a woman myself. I would absolutely disconnect myself with any man who disrespects women.
So one other comment that just came to light earlier today was actually a few years ago, well, in 1997, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote an article about single women, saying they have babies just for free properties to get on the council house. That's come out recently.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to be very honest about this. I haven't read that article, so I'm not going to be able to comment on that. But about the letterboxes bit, I personally feel, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. I personally feel that it was taken out of context. He is a man who's got a former wife who was a Sikh. He's of Turkish descent. He meant perhaps about giving choices to women how they might want to dress.
But many feel that he's emboldened racists to use that sort of language. He may not be a racist, but is using that language correct? Would you have used that language personally?
I personally wouldn't have. But
and
listen,
do you think he should apologise for using that language, even if it is taken out of content?
You know what?
Context?
Again, I can't comment on what Boris should be doing or not. But if I've hurt anyone's sentiments, I beg your pardon, I must apologise, and I will leave that to Boris for him to decide. But I think in that particular case about the statement, it was taken out of context. I've spent time with him in the gurdwaras. I've spent time with him in the mandirs and other places and mosques as well. I've sat on the floor and had langars with him. He's not a racist, and please, I think we should just let that be and talk of other big matters as well.
All right, moving on then.
Yes,
the other
please.
big matter that concerns a lot of people in Slough is the situation in Kashmir. We have a large Kashmiri population.
Yes.
I received 2 or 3 messages today who wanted to know what your view is on Kashmir and what the Indian government is doing there. As you may be aware, it's been over 100 days now since a blockade has been imposed.
Yes.
Communications blockade. People are finding it difficult to get food and water in.
Yes.
What is your view?
I mean, first and foremost, atrocities on any minorities in any part of the world are absolutely appalling and should not happen. So that has to be criticized. Number 2, what I have to say is I can't comment on the bilateral issues or the complex issues, in fact, between India and Pakistan, because those are historical issues which have taken a toll on all of us who've had either any contacts with Pakistan or any contacts with India. Having said that, I just want to remind the viewers that my grandparents were born in Pakistan in Sialkot and Multan. I was just telling you. My parents and I grew up in India. I have equal amount of respect for both the countries.
Leaving the 2 countries aside, just concentrating on what is actually happening in Kashmir at the moment.
Yeah, but you know what? I can't comment. It's a very complex matter. I mean, what I can comment on is what is important in Slough. I don't want to be divisive. I don't want to take one person's side and alienate the others. They're all equal to me. Any resident who lives in Slough, whether you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Sikh, you're a Hindu, you're equally important to me.
I mean, a lot of Slough residents do have family back in Kashmir. I know I personally do as well.
Yes, of course.
And we are extremely worried about what's going on there. So
well, everybody is. I mean, I think everybody is. Look at the positive side of things. We just spoke about the Kartarpur, the corridor, right? That is a huge step towards positivity. I give high credit to Imran Khan and Navjot Singh Sidhu for doing that. Let's focus on the positive. Why do we want to focus on the negative? Of course, I've criticized and mentioned that any form of atrocities and minorities is absolutely wrong and unacceptable. But what matters to us is, number 1, we keep positive. Number 2, let those countries solve these issues amongst themselves. And of course, we all have the concerns, and we duly should.
So, okay, leaving Pakistan to a side now, India says it's a unilateral matter, it's one for them to decide. Do you believe people have the right to decide their own future?
Of course they do have rights.
So should the Kashmiris have the right to vote whether they want independence from India? Just a simple yes or no, and that would be great.
You were really cornering me there. But again, this is a very complex issue. It will be wrong for me to comment either which ways. What really matters to me is how the people in Slough live. I duly give all my respect to the Muslim community. I really genuinely care about them. I care as much about the Hindu communities, the Sikh and the Christian communities. I want to bring them back together. I don't want to be divisive. I don't want to take sides. And all I want to do is decrease crime, increase education, better infrastructure, regeneration, and just be a good human being.
All right. Just moving away from international politics
Yes,
now,
please.
back to more local issues.
Yes.
I'm sure you're aware of the NHS Frimley Trust.
Yes.
And the protest that they are doing against what they feel is privatising their jobs to undercut their pay. What are your thoughts on that?
Again, these are scaremongering. I mean, Labour is at it once again. Every time the elections are announced, the scaremongering of NHS being on sale, privatisation, etc., has come out from Labour's side.
This is more so local to Slough. So
Yes.
the Frimley Trust is bringing in a private company to take over jobs that previously were...
What I understand is the jobs of the people who already were there are secure, and all the dues that are for them will stay in place. Perhaps for the new lot, that is the plan that they have. However, remember, all the strain that comes to the NHS doesn't come from the Tory cuts, which is what people believe. It is to do with the debt that Labour left. We are trying to solve this issue, and we are trying to do it pretty well. Remember, we are building 40 new hospitals, regenerating 20 hospitals around the country. I've been speaking to a doctor from Wexham Hospital in the morning, and he was on the phone with me, and he said, can we actually tell the viewers, it is not the Tory cuts, it is lot to do with two things. One, immigration. The number of sheer volume of people who are coming to the NHS is growing, and he is a doctor who said that to me. Number two, he said, people are living longer. They are obviously wanting more care. These are the two factors that we keep forgetting, and we politicize this and say Tory cuts. That's not the case actually.
Okay, just one last question
Yes,
on
please.
the NHS.
Yes.
It's about the trade deal with America after leaving the EU. Let's just say, for example, the NHS was to be put on offer. Would you vote against that, against your party, against the whip if you were to be successful?
No, NHS cannot be put on offer. That won't happen. Out of the 73 years NHS has existed, the Tories have controlled it or had a control of it for 45 years. They haven't sold the NHS in the last 45 years, and I have full faith they have no idea of selling it now.
In a worst case scenario, if it
No,
would,
it
would
cannot
you
be.
stand up in protest against that,
Yes.
against the party?
It is a national pride. Our NHS doctors and nurses work very hard. I'm proud of the NHS, and so are all the other people that I know, and that is not for sale.
That's great. Okay, so let's now say you were to win. Do you think you've got a good chance of winning?
Of course I do. Of course I do. Absolutely I do. We peddle optimism, that's number one. And listen,